Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 13th of August. My disclaimer, I did this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. This will likely be the last one, as long as I manage to get the emails out and paperwork out, which I'm not. I love TA. Honestly, I find admin kind of boring, but I'm hoping to get those out in the next day or two. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at the markets now. Yesterday, we had some inflation numbers, which were arguably good because the headline number came in as less than expected, and arguably bad because the core CPI number came in, I think, a little worse than expected, and went over 3 for the first time in a few months. So mixed figures on that. But markets responded well, and I've been looking for retest of the all-time highs on ES and the Qs. And I was after we saw the Qs the other day, I was still looking for it on NQ, which we saw yesterday. ES and SPX we saw yesterday, and interestingly, YM. And IWM, RTY and IWM thoroughly rejected the double top, which had broken down and went back up and retested the July highs. YM was more muted. I'll be talking about DIA later, but has also gone up. We're now at a stage where we can set up some decent negative divergence, but on the bigger picture, we're now at the stage where we're looking at those 3 trend lines that I was looking at the other day, although in practical terms, unless diet starts going up a lot more, we're only really looking at the ones on SPX and the Qs. Looking at DAX, this looked like a little bull flag forming, and that little bull flag has broken up. I'm looking to see a retest of this high here. And ESTX, we had a little head and shoulders break down and fail, and it's gone up to the prior high, and expecting to see higher on that too. So we shall see. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Okay, ES obviously made a new all-time high, or at least I believe it did. It certainly has overnight. 64.70 against 68.50. Yes, so that is a new all-time high, and we made a new all-time high on SPX as well. Does that give us any negative divergence? No, it doesn't. But now puts us into an area where we could start developing some negative divergence on the RSI 5. Let's have a look at the daily on the Qs. Qs, we've got, again, we could start setting up negative divergence on the RSI 5. We've made a new high, a new all-time high with more confidence here. DIA has been kicking around. It has broken up over the daily middle band, only just. It managed 44468 against 44366 yesterday. I would note that if a break like this, now obviously the break we saw on IWM, so hang on, bear with me a moment. The break we saw in IWM was a really hard break. So we opened above it, and we went all the way up to the daily upper band. Now that is a hard break over the daily middle band. So I'm not expecting to see that rejected today. But if we are going to see a rejection, it's going to be on DIA. And we have got a little inflection point here. And the reason we've got a little inflection point here is because, bear with me a moment. All right. SPX, we've still got this trend line here. It is a very nice 3-touch trend line, and we have got up to this level here, 64.46, and this could be the second high of a double top. But if we go up and test this trend line resistance here, I've got that in about the 64.80 area, I think. So if we go up and see that, then obviously the wedge has just expanded. At the moment, we've got a potential level top, which we could just fell from. No current negative divergence on the hourly chart. On Qs, again, we have gone up. We haven't quite made it to the resistance, but I've got this resistance up here in about the 583 area at the moment. And again, it could be that we're going to go back and test that trend line. DIA, we've got a nice resistance trend line there too. At the moment, it doesn't look as though we're in serious danger of retesting this high here at 450.25, and we've still got a double top that is broken down and is not invalidated because there's no level at which a double top does get invalidated. So watching that with interest. So we could see a retest of this high here, but there's no obvious reason to think that we're going to at the moment. IWM, obviously we had a very nice looking double top there. That has failed. We've gone back up to a retest of the high. Do I have a 3-touch trend line here? This one's not bad, actually. And if we went up to see that, that would be in about the 231.5 to 2 area. We could see that happening, and that would, we've got a pretty decent resistance trend line here already, and that would be the obvious one to reach. All right. In terms of short-term divergence, well, it all depends on whether we continue going up. We did have a possible weak 6-minute sell signal brewing on the S, but we actually just went up high enough to lose that divergence. So I'll just take that off the chart. So, and that's the thing, obviously, if you can easily go up through divergence, so you have to see whether it lasts. This was a weak divergence. I'm not that surprised to see it go. We've still got a 60-minute sell signal fixed on NQ. RTY, we've got a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing. YM, we have a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing, but if we go much higher, we're probably going to lose that too. So we will see. All right, looking at the other charts, looking at, hang on, bear with me. All right, looking at DAX. DAX, I'm still wondering about a possible retest of the high, but really, we're not even managing to hold the daily middle band as support at the moment. We closed below it yesterday. As a bull flag was forming, I'm quite liking a retest of that high and then maybe a test of 24.6k, but this hasn't been the strongest performance. Nikkei has actually gone back and retested the 42.4 k. So this bull flag has now finally made target, which is good. That is one of the things I was expecting to happen, which is knocked off. So we'll see how that goes from there. All right, great. Let's have a look at the dollar. Okay, dollar, we were forming up, we had a little potential double bottom here. It broke up and it fell back into the lows. We are continuing down. We have a head and shoulder target, which is down here at about the 96.85 area. And currently, I'm not seeing any reason to think that won't be made. Looking at the other currency pairs, USD, we had a bull flag. It has broken up, retested this high, and is continuing higher. We've got a double bottom target. IHS target rather, in the 118 area. Looking at GBP USD, again, nice rally, no obvious sign of that just reversing. USD JPY, I'm thinking this is a bear flag which may be breaking down. USD CAD, weak 6-minute sell signals reached possible near miss target, but again, I'm thinking we may well be seeing another leg down here. Australian dollar has had a likely bull flag which has broken up, so that is continuing higher. And NZ, we had a head and shoulders which broke down and failed back into the highs, and we're getting pretty close to the IHS target which I've got in the 60.005 area. So getting pretty close to the targets, and they're all really, well, none of them are significantly disagreeing with the idea of the dollar going down further than this. Let's have a look at the US dollar chart. Okay, now here, one thing I'd drawn in and I'd mentioned on the last bigger picture webinar was that we've got an IHS which is broken up here, but we've also got a potential bear flag forming. And this was us coming down and doing an exact test of bear flag support yesterday. Now, I did say in the last video, I think, that this actually would be pretty bearish because it would confirm that we do have a possible bear flag here. And that's what we got. So I'm taking the question marks up the lines, and that is a bear flag. Normal things that bear flags do is they break down and retest the lows, and there's no particular reason to think this would be much different, but it hasn't actually broken down yet. Not a lot else to say on the currencies. USD, this is starting to look like the obvious next target is the retest of the last high at 118.30. US dollar, well, that's looking pretty good for a retest this low here at 96.38. GBP USD, looking for a retest of that high. USD JPY doesn't tend to quite follow the dollar, really. Not in the same way the euro follows it inversely. But again, I'm wondering about retests of the lows here. USD CAD, possible retest of the lows, possible IHS forming, I would note. Australian dollar up, NZ up. We've got a little head and shoulders that, no, it's a double top that broke down here. We've got a possible larger head and shoulders that is forming, but we may just reject back up to the highs. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at bonds. Now, bonds responded yesterday by going up a bit. Does this look like a bull flag forming? Yes. it does. So I'm thinking this is going to, I was sort of talking about this in the pre-market video yesterday. The obvious end to the sequence is to break up from here and go back up and retest this high. That could be the second high of a double top, or we could continue higher. I have to say, I'm going to be writing a post about it this morning, but obviously, Trump got some bad labor numbers last week. So he had sacked the head of statistics, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics has got a very good international reputation. It's been independent for many years, and he's now appointed a political hack. And I think this means he'll get less bad news from us in the future. But of course, it means that in all probability, the numbers can no longer be trusted and probably won't be coming out as often. This is actually a strike at the trustworthiness of the US economic numbers. So this is actually fairly serious. This is not going to help keep interest rates down, especially as the Jerome Powell's term finishes in May last year, which is probably the only reason that Trump hasn't tried to sack him yet. And I think chances are he's going to appoint a political hack there, which will mean the interest rate will be whatever he wants. But of course, there's a reason. There's a reason the Fed is actually meant to be independent, and it won't be anymore. So by the time that and the BLS aren't independent, at that stage, two of the big things which reassure international investors won't be there. That's going to have an impact. Although it's hard to say at this stage what it will be, but I don't think it's going to be a good impact. All right, so this looks like a bull flag, probably going to head back up to the highs. Wondering about seeing that on ZN as well. Although on the bigger picture, obviously, I'm expecting to see lower on this rising wedge if this continues to fall. Okay, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And TYX, no divergence. This looks like a bullish consolidation setting up a retest this high here at 51.53. That could, of course, be the second high of a small double top as well as a large double top when we get there. Not compelling. The economic arguments for a big move down on bonds aren't particularly compelling here, but it's always a possibility, and I always watch the setups. Looking at TNX, nothing on the daily chart. Hourly chart, we had a 60-minute buy signal on the RSI 14, and that's made target here. Was this the second low of a double bottom? No, it's too big relative to the preceding high, which is this one. So watching this with interest and keeping an open mind. But at the moment, I was expecting this move down to retest this low, which we did, and then I was expecting to move up because we had a buy signal. Right now, we don't have either. So waiting to see what the next move will be. TLT. Could this be a wedge setting up, an overall bear flag wedge setting up a retest to the low? Yes, but I would need to see more confirmation and a move down. We will see whether we get that. We did have a sell signal here, but obviously that is now already made target. Okay, let's have a look at oils. Now, oils, this has been dominated for the last couple of weeks by Trump having asked the Saudi Arabians to ramp up production to reduce the oil price, I think partially to help the inflation numbers, but partially to put pressure on Russia. And it has been a great success. The price has dropped $8. That's pretty impressive. Could we be bottoming out here? There's no particular reason to think so. I was talking on Sunday about the bigger picture where either we would go up fairly soon or we'd go back down to retest the low in the mid-50s. At the moment, subject to the Ukraine war, Russian production, Russian sanctions, and so on, at the moment I'm leaning towards going down and retesting the low in the mid-50s. But obviously there's a number of geopolitical aspects. If, for instance, India was to stop buying Russian oil, then that would increase the demand for non-Russian oil, and that, of course, might put the price up. We'll see. All right, HO, we got a potential double bottom here, but we also got a head and shoulders with a target here down in the 220 area. We're getting pretty close to that. I think there's a pretty good chance it's going to make it. We got a possible weak 60-minute buy signal brewing on RBOB. No current divergence. We've got a bear flag here, which is broken down with a retest target at a retested low at 2.0149, and I'm leaning towards that making target too. NG, we went a bit lower here. We were forming a potential level bottom. We've gone lower, and we've actually got a pretty nice looking falling wedge here. The next obvious target within the wedge would be wedge support, currently in about the 2.71 area. And it may go lower. I do have a target lower than that as well. One thing I've been talking about is the pressure on the upside on the NG price over the next few months. But I would say that this next one, which is going to be switching obviously in a couple of weeks, we are only going up 10 cents. After that, we go into a seasonal period where the gas price tends to go up by quite a lot. So you can see the gap between this one. Between the October and November contracts is 40 cents, and then the next one is 50 cents, and then the one after that is slightly over 30 cents. You're seeing where I'm going here. So we've got quite a lot of pressure suggesting that we're going to see a move up of 120, 130 cents over the next few months. And that needs to be, borne in mind, and that is a headwind for prices going down. Because that's going to be continuously trying to push prices up. But that doesn't really start for another 6 weeks. So if we're going to do any serious downside action, now's the time to see it. So I've got targets down here in the 2.65 to 2.7 area, really, and I'm quite liking a move down there. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on those. WTIC, we are basically on and off on a daily lower band right here. No current positive divergence, no particular reason to think this is about to turn back up. Looking at heating oil, we've got a possible RSI 5 bicycle brewing on the daily. Again, pretty close to the daily lower band. I'm still liking the downside here, but we do have some positive divergence, which is worth noting. No divergence currently on gas oil. I'm wondering whether this whole thing here is a big bear flag, and this one hasn't broken down yet. This would have the next obvious target within this overall flag would be at about the 1.9 area. Looking at natural gas, I've got a trend line here too, and it's a longer term and slightly different trend line to the one I'm looking at on the hourly chart. And this one down here is in about the 2.64 area now. This is the target range I'm thinking we might stop in. Do we have lower target ranges? Well, yeah. We've got a double bottom here. It is failing. We are testing the monthly middle band at the moment. If we break below it, the obvious next target would be a retest of this high here at 1.54. Can we reach that in 6 weeks? That's a stretch. Even on natural gas, that's a stretch. So can we make it with the headwind over the next 4 months, seasonally pushing NG upwards? I don't know, I'm doubtful. But I think certainly getting down to the 2.65 to 2.7 area looks very, very doable, but we may well find support there. We shall see. All right, and we could, of course, develop some positive divergence there. Now, we've already got an RSI 5 bicycle fixed here. I'm thinking we might lose it and develop another one. We will see. We came pretty close to losing it yesterday with this strong move down. So we shall see. All right, great. But I've been calling this basically lower since here. That's been going pretty well so far. Not seeing anything really compelling saying that's about to stop. It should go at least a little lower. All right, GC. GC, we're holding the monthly pivot at the moment. This arguably was a little inverted head and shoulders, although it wasn't a particularly nice one. It's just trying to break up, but we've got a weak 60-minute buy signal. That's getting close to the possible near miss target, though this might just be a little rally. This move up was tariffs being imposed on gold, and this move down was tariffs being unimposed on gold. So really, that's just this should have just put the spot price back in line with the futures price. So do we still have a target at a retest of the high here at 3,500 on the spot price? Yes, we do. I'm still thinking we may see that soon. We did not see it here. This was these didn't make it. First one came close. Second one, the tariffs had basically divorced the futures price from the spot price. They now should be back fairly much together. Looking at SI, we had a head and shoulders breakdown slightly here and fell hard. So we're going back up into a retest of this high. I would love to see the retest of the all-time high on gold and the retest of the high on silver. And I'm thinking this might be the move to get us there. On palladium, possible bottoming action here. 60-minute bicycle has reached the possible near miss target. Waiting for direction here, really, but this is potentially bottoming action. We do have a head and shoulder target, which is a little below. We've got very close to the head and shoulder target, but the full target is down here in the 11.15 area, and I'm thinking we may well make that. Platinum, we've got a little bear flag, which is broken down. not heading down at the moment, and we've still got a double bottom here, which is valid because they don't invalidate. But at the moment, as long as it holds the monthly pivot as resistance and doesn't convert that to support, I'm leaning towards the bear flag option and the retest of the low. HG. We've got a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing here, and this is, I called this fairly early as a likely bear flag forming, and this still looks like a bear flag forming. So sooner or later, this is going to drop a relatively small amount and retest this low here in about the 4.3 area, 4.325 probably, and that may well be sooner rather than later. Possible 60-minute sell signal brewing here is suggesting that process might be starting. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on those. Now, gold. Gold, we've got an old RSI 14 sell signal fix. I'm not taking a lot of notice of that. It is quite an old one. Yes, and it's still valid, but main thing here is we're testing the daily middle band as support at the moment, but we are really, this should be ending in a retest of this move, this consolidation. This should be ending in a retest of this all-time high at 3,500. I have to say the way we're getting there is suggesting that we might have the double top there and see a sizable retracement. We will have to see. But looking at silver, obviously we're hitting some decent resistance, and that has held so far. I'd quite like to see a retest. That could set up some nice negative divergence, but we will see how that goes. Particularly, it could set up a nice weekly RSI 5 negative divergence, which would be good to see. Bigger picture, well, as you can see, there's quite a lot of resistance in the 39 area, and at the moment, it is holding. All right, looking at the daily chart, we've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed. That has almost failed once, and it could fail. But at the moment, we're holding the 200 DMA as support. No, that's the 50 DMA. We're holding the 50 DMA as support. Is it the wrong color, or is it just the light? Okay, fair enough. But that is holding, and as long as that holds, I'm leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here at 39.53. All right, looking at palladium. Palladium, I'm thinking this could all be a bear flag, actually. But this was all a rounded bottom as well. So if we start seeing, if we're continuing to form that, the next obvious target will be down here at about the 980 area. Looking at palladium, RSI 14 sell signal fixed, RSI 5 sell signals made target. Tiny bit of positive divergence here. We've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal, RSI 5 buy signal fixed. But on the bigger picture, I'm leaning towards this being a flag and the next target being in about the 840 area. Looking at platinum, resistance, fail at resistance so far. This could be a rising wedge, which could actually be a bear flag on the bigger picture. I am wondering whether this is going to go back and retest the lows, waiting to see. We had sell signals here too. The RSI 14 sell signal has not reached the possible near miss target yet. So I'm still expecting that to happen. Looking at copper, copper, we set up this really nice resistance trend line, and the corresponding trend line is, of course, this one here. I'm leaning towards seeing that made, and I've got that in about the 3.9 area. After this flag breaks, if we go lower, that's where I'll be thinking of this is going. GDX, we've still got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. GDXJ, still got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've got a potential nice looking little level top on GDX, and nothing of the kind on GDXJ, which has gone considerably higher. Possible topping action maybe, but really on the gold chart we are owed that 3,500 retest. I think sooner or later we'll be getting it. Okay, looking at KC, we've got a pretty nice looking rising megaphone here, which may well be a bear flag. If so, I'm leaning towards this heading down towards the flag support and then going back into a retest of the low. SB, if this was still looking like an IHS, this is where it would be starting to break up, but it's not looking like an IHS, so I'm cautiously leaning towards the downside. Looking at CC, we've got an IHS which has broken up with a target in the 9,000 area, and we're getting pretty close to that now. Looking at CT, I was saying this was a pretty good area to be a low, and I was quite liking this double bottom, and we have broken up from the double bottom. We're also breaking up, I think. We break up. I'm not sure we're breaking over decline resistance yet, but obviously if we make this double bottom target, we're going to. I've got this target here in about the 69.1 to the 69.6 area. And I'm not seeing anything currently to suggest we're not going to make that target. Lumber, we have been on a straight shot down here. We've got this narrow falling channel, and it looks very nice. Possible 60-minute buy signal brewing, no sign of reversal yet. ZW, we've got a potential level bottom here. I've still got some targets below I'm thinking might well get made. But I've got to say, we've been seeing some action. Here, I'm suspecting, well, Trump's been trying to get the Chinese to buy a whole load of soybeans. I suspect he got his wish yesterday. And that's the reason for this big spike up in soybeans. Bigger picture, I've been looking for more downside targets. We could still see those, but I have to say bigger picture, as I was noting on all of the grains, the bigger picture is bullish, and I'm wondering about that. Hang on, basically, let me just check that soybean thing for a moment. See if I can find that. Right, hang on a second. Because then China had asked, Trump had asked China to quadruple soybean orders. No, not seeing any actual news of that, but maybe it's on hope that the Chinese will do that. But for whatever reason, we've got an IHS here. It has broken up hard. It's got a target up in about the 1045 area, and I'm not seeing any particular reason to think it won't make target. Soybean oil, we actually made the double top target eventually. It's been a slow road down. We've got a potential level bottom here, and I'm wondering whether we might break up and see a decent rally, possibly a retest of that high. Live cattle, nice looking potential double top here or part formed head and shoulders. Waiting for more developments, and we got a possible bear flag forming here on lean hogs. So we'll see how that develops too. All right, looking at the bigger picture on those. Coffee. We're coming up really well. I'm wondering about a possible back test of the daily middle band. The weekly middle band at 3.4, but we're some way short of it at the moment. Not convinced we got a low in here. I'd be leaning towards seeing a retest of the low. No current divergence here. Kind of looks like a bear flag here too. And that's probably because it is. Sugar, we've got obviously still got this apocalypse scenario down with targets down here in the 6.5 to 9 area. Smaller picture, kind of say this is looking like a bear flag too. So chances are this is going to resolve into a retest of the low, and that could give us a decent looking double bottom as and when we get that. All right, if this is a flag forming, where could we be heading up to resistance here? I've got that potentially in about the 1740 to 50 area. Looking at cocoa, again, somewhat overvalued by historical standards, but obviously we're looking at the crop this year. Do we have a nice looking IHS which is broken up? Yes, we do. But it's not quite the IHS that we're looking at on the other. I'm not quite sure why that is. This is, well, we'll see. But for whatever reason, this is the numbers are different. We'll see. Okay, looking at wheat. Wheat we've got on the monthly chart. Hang on. Chart. On the weekly chart, daily chart, we've got pretty close to a retested trend line here in the 500 area. We do have some positive divergence. We've got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing, but I've got to say that's a fairly compelling target. And below it, if we can go back and retest the 49550 area, that would give us a beautiful bigger picture double bottom formed over the last year or so. Corn, we've got on the weekly chart. We did have a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. If we close the week down where we are now, we're going to have lost that. Do we have bigger picture charts below, targets below? We've already made the 385 target. We've got a possible target at 307.25, but that's a long way down. Not really seeing any particular reason why we'd go that low at the moment, but maybe. We've got a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing here, a weak one, possible RSI 5 buy signal. We could potentially lose both if we see a hard spike down. And looking at soybeans, on the weekly chart, we haven't broken over declining resistance. Of course, we've already done that, but we've got a bear flag set up here, or at least it sure looks like one. And I don't think, hang on, wait a second. I do have one possible alternative here, which would be an expansion of the bear flag. So bear with me, I'm just going to have a look at that. Nope, that wouldn't be it either. We've got a bear flag here, and it's pretty obviously broken down towards a retest this low here at 93606. I'm still leaning towards seeing that. So we will see how that goes. But I'm quite liking, I'm liking that. So we'll see. It's but I think if we see If we see a big rally here, then chances are it's going to come back down. I'll be looking for resistance in the weekly middle band, which I've got in about the 1029 area. All right, let's have a look at the daily chart there, where we've got no positive divergence on cotton. Cotton, we're starting to see a bit of a breakup over this declining resistance. This is the last of these huge wedges that hadn't broken up yet. And I'm liking the upside here because we've got this lovely looking potential level bottom, which is much larger than the one on the hourly chart. And if this heads up and, well, this could deliver a rally, which could get us up into the 90 area. That would be a really significant move, and I think we might be starting that run. Looking at lumber, I'm thinking we've got a bear flag here, and we've got a double top set up here, which could potentially get us back pretty much to the lows. It's a really nice looking setup, and I'm wondering whether we've started that. Waiting to see if this breaks down, but obviously this is an encouraging start. All right, great. In that case, the last thing to look at today is cryptos, and we've been seeing some interesting action there. On Ethereum, I was calling yesterday and saying on the crypto pre-market webinar that we've got a potential run at a retest of the all-time high here, and we're now getting pretty close because I had a very strong day yesterday. 4865.94. And we got up to 4,700 yesterday, and we've made it up from 3,500 in the last 2 days. So it's gone up really a third in the last 2 days. Well, 2 weeks. It's pretty impressive. We've got a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing here, and we've got possible resistance when we get there, but I am liking that retest. Looking at Solana. Solana finally took off. Last couple of weeks, last couple of days, it's been doing some decent damage to the upside. We've obviously got a target and potential resistance at a retest of this high here at 206.4. We will see. Nothing compelling saying it's about to turn. Bitcoin, strangely, has barely moved while all this has been happening on Solana and Ethereum, but I'm still expecting to see a retest of this high here at 123.2. But crypto coins tend to move at different, these three big ones tend to move at different speeds sometimes, and that is happening at the moment. Bitcoin tends to be more muted, and that's really happening this week. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm liking retest of the 2025 high, sorry, the current post-high on Solana. So I'm looking really for a retest of this high here at 206.40, which is the July high, I think. Yes, on Solana. Ethereum's got a decent run at the retest of the all-time high, and that is going to be the last one to make a new all-time high on this bull run cycle. So that'll be good to see. I would like to see these go up from there, but possibly that's going to be dependent on what happens on equities. We shall see. All right, great. In that case, that's everything. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys again on Sunday.